Hey guys, we're back with another Brothers podcast. This time is going to be the MLB 2020 way too early predictions, but Brendan didn't have too many predictions, so I'm just going to be the only one talking in this episode of the podcast. So without a long intro, we're going to get right into this, and we're going to start with the division winners. So in the AL East, it comes down to three teams: the Rays, the Red Sox, and the Yankees. It's such a highly skilled division. I don't think the Rays have what it takes to win the division. So that brings it down to the Yankees and the Red Sox. And after the Red Sox season last year, a lot of people might say I'm crazy, but I feel like the pitching staff was the main reason last year. And today, the Red Sox traded Sandy Leon for a reliever, so that's going to help us bullpen-wise because the bullpen wasn't very good. And I feel like, I feel like Chris Sale will step it up, and Eduardo Rodriguez will pitch like he did last year, but that's still not going to be good enough to win the division. So that leaves the New York Yankees. I feel like the Yankees are going to pick up Bumgarner in free agency. I already said that in the previous video, so I feel like they will win the AL East. Now, the AL Central comes down to two teams, the Twins and the Cleveland Indians. The Cleveland Indians are past their glory days with Lindor and Kluber and all those different guys. But the Twins won the division last year, and I feel like they're on pace to do that again. With such a good young team, they hit the most home runs last year. They have Sano and Max Kepler leading the hitting, and they have some pretty good pitchers in Jake Odorizzi. So they will win the AL Central. In the AL West, to most people, straight out Astros, no choice. But Cole's leaving the Astros, and as I said in a previous video, I think Moustakas is going to sign with the Athletics, which will give the Athletics enough to somehow overtake the Astros and win the AL West. I only think it's going to be like a game or two, or maybe three. So just to recap the American League, we have the Yankees, the Twins, and the Athletics winning their own divisions. Now we're moving on to the NL. In the NL East, most people, it comes down to two teams. Mine, it comes down to three: the Atlanta Braves, the Washington Nationals, the reigning world champs, and the New York Mets. The New York Mets have good pitching in Syndergaard and DeGrom, and I said in the last video that Puig will sign with them, but I still don't think that's going to be enough to give them a division win, but they will be better than the Washington Nationals coming in second place in that division. 5, 6, 7 games ahead of them, another close divisional race, will be the Atlanta Braves. They have Ronald Acuna, Dansby Swanson. I said that Donaldson will re-sign with them. I said that Keiko will re-sign with them. So if those things happen, the Braves will be a lock to win the NL East. Now on to the NL Central. It comes down to another time where it comes down to two teams for me. It actually comes down to three this time. The Cardinals, the Brewers, and the Chicago Cubs. The Chicago Cubs, the 2016 World Champs, just missed the playoffs last year. It was a race in between the Cardinals, the Brewers, and the Cubs last year for the division, and the Cubs were the one team that missed out of those three. It was only by a few games. I feel like this year, the Cubs will be able to come in second place in the division over the Milwaukee Brewers, which leaves one team, the St. Louis Cardinals. I said that Osuna would re-sign with them, and he's a really good player. And if he re-signs, they're pitching in Jack Flaherty, who's really good, and Matt Carpenter in the outfield. That could help them enough to win the NL Central. Now, in the NL West, there's literally only one choice. It's the other teams are the Rockies, the Diamondbacks, the Padres, and the Giants. Not good. Which leaves me with one team left, the Los Angeles Dodgers. Kershaw will be on the mound, and then they're normal hitters. So that just leaves the Dodgers to win the NL West. So recap everything: AL, the Yankees, the Twins, and the Athletics, and the NL, the Braves, the Cardinals, and the Dodgers. Now for the playoffs. I had the two wildcard teams in the National League being the New York Mets of the NL East and the Chicago Cubs of the NL Central, two teams that weren't in the playoffs last year, making the wildcard game. For the AL, the Boston Red Sox. Now, a lot of people after their year last year probably saying crazy, but as I said, I feel the pitching staff will step it up, and hopefully the hitting does a little better than last year. And then the Astros. Saying they aren't winning their division does not in any means mean that they're not going to make the playoffs. They're still one of the better teams in the American League, actually the whole Major League Baseball, but I feel like they're going to end up as a wild card team. All right, for the ALDS, I have the Athletics actually having the best record in the American League by 1 game over the Yankees. Now, the Athletics winning the division is a little bit of a bold prediction, but them having the most wins, they're going to need the Mike Moustakas, and they're going to need Chris Davis to hit 40 home runs like he has 2 out of the last 3 years. And I said that they would sign Rick Porcello. They're going to need Rick Porcello to return to 2016 form. If they do that, they will have the most wins over the Yankees. So that means they're the 1 seed who gets the wild card winner. The American League wild card winner, I have the Red Sox beating the Astros. A lot of people are going to say I'm crazy, especially because of the year the Sox had last year. But I feel like Sale can go out there and beat Verlander, or even Eduardo Rodriguez they might throw to try to beat Verlander. But I feel like either one of those 2 guys can go out there and win, especially if the game was in Boston. But I don't have that prediction. The other American League Divisional Series matchup, the Athletics will beat the Red Sox in 5 games. The other American League Divisional Series matchup is the Yankees and the Twins. The Yankees, probably a top 3 team in baseball next year, without a doubt, especially if they sign Madison Bumgarner. And I'm a hardcore Red Sox fan. And anybody knows me knows I'm a hardcore Red Sox fan and hate the Yankees straight out. So me saying they're going to be a top 3 team really means that they're going to be a top 3 team. And I feel like them facing the Twins, any pitcher that the Yankees have right now would be good enough. Or if you have Severino and Tanaka in that pitching rotation and J.A. Happ, that should be good enough to win an ALDS against the Twins, especially if the Twins play like they have last year. But if you have Madison Bumgarner, one of the best postseason pitchers in history, if not the best postseason pitcher in history, there's no way they lose to the Minnesota Twins. But I see the Twins giving them a fight, but the Yankees win the series in 4 games. Now on to the National League. I have the wild card game, as I said earlier, Mets versus Cubs, which means the winner of that would play the best record, who I have as the LA Dodgers, once again being the 1 seed in the National League. I have the Dodgers playing the Cubs, and the Dodgers winning in 4. I feel like the Cubs aren't good enough to be a National League Championship Series caliber team, especially if they have to go through the Dodgers. Clayton Kershaw obviously chokes all the time in the playoffs, but I feel like he will be able to get past the Cubs, Bryant, Rizzo, and Baez. Now, which leaves me the other National League Divisional Series matchup, which is 2 other division winners. They played each other last year in the playoffs, actually. It is the Braves and the St. Louis Cardinals. The Braves are just such a good baseball team with Acuna and Albies and Swanson and Donaldson and Keuchel. If Keuchel and Donaldson re-sign, they have Mike Foltynewicz in the pitching. So I feel like that team is going to be hard to beat all around, and they sweep the St. Louis Cardinals in 3 games. Now to the championship series. First in the American League, we have the Athletics and the Yankees. Now, most people in their right minds would say that the Yankees win this series without a doubt. But then remember, I have the Athletics as the best team in the American League, and I'm going to keep that throughout the ALCS. The Athletics pull off the biggest upset of the season and knock off the Yankees, and it's not even going to take them 7 games. It's only going to take them 6. Now moving on to the National League. The Braves, and the ALCS MVP will be Chris Davis for the Athletics. And now in the NLCS, the Braves and the Dodgers. You can see that I'm hyping up the Braves a lot. You can also see that I'm hyping up the Dodgers a little bit more than I probably should be, but the Braves are going to win this series. It's going to be the best series of the playoffs by far, going into Game 7 and probably maybe even extra innings in 2 of the games. Those teams I feel like they're evenly matched, but not evenly matched enough that the Braves or Dodgers will get blown out. The NLCS MVP, Dansby Swanson. I just feel like that guy, some people think he's amazing and is rated where he should be, and he's one of the best shortstops in the game. I feel like he's a little bit underrated for his talent. All right, World Series, probably the biggest prediction I'm going to make all day. It's the Braves and the Athletics. Not a lot of people have that as their World Series matchup, I'll tell you that right now. But I have the Atlanta Braves winning the World Series in 2020 over the Athletics in 6 games. The Braves, as I've said all day, great team. I feel like if Keuchel and Donaldson re-sign, they will be the best team in the league next year. And without a doubt, it's like, especially over the Athletics, which I think the Braves would just overpower them, but the Athletics are such a good team that they'd be able to take the Braves 6. The World Series MVP, a lot of people will be like, yeah, it's never the best player on the team that wins it, but I think next year it will be Ronald Acuna Jr. wins his first World Series and his first World Series MVP. So that leads us right into the other awards for the whole season. We're going to start off with the Cy Young. So I said in my other video that Garrett Cole was going to stay in the American League and sign with the Los Angeles Angels, and I feel like he's going to win a Cy Young. I feel like he should have won it last year, but they gave it to Verlander. But he's going to win it next year for the Los Angeles Angels. Now in the National League, this player has won 2 Cy Youngs already in his career, and he won one last year, so I feel like he can repeat his season again. And I'm giving it to the New York Mets ace, Jacob deGrom. He's just such a good pitcher that I feel like he can win a Cy Young if he pitches amazing. All right, so now we got Rookie of the Year. This is probably the hardest to pick because there isn't as many talked about prospects as there was last year in Vlad Guerrero Jr. and Pete Alonso. But I'm a Red Sox fan, so in the AL, I know Bobby Dahlbeck really well, baseball-wise, not personal-wise, obviously. And I feel like with the way I watched him play last year, and I see him evolve from Lowell Spinners, their single-A team, up to Pawtucket, their triple-A team, I feel like he can win Rookie of the Year this is a big if the Red Sox call him up and play him at second base, which I feel like that could be a very big decision for them. In the NL, I looked through a ton of stats, and I looked through a ton of different prospect rankings, and on MLB.com, I looked through prospect rankings. I found a guy from the St. Louis Cardinals. He plays outfield, Dylan Carlson. He hit .296 last year through AA and AAA. So, not amazing that you'd say he's a standout player, but he was able to put 26 balls over the wall. And for AA and AAA, that's a pretty good thing to do. His stats stood out the most to me, so I'm picking Dylan Carlson. Coach of the Year. This one, I feel like this has the least importance on how your team does. The Coach of the Year never wins the World Series. Recently has not won the World Series. I feel like the Coach of the Year has the least impact on how your team performs throughout the whole season. So, for the Coach of the Year in the American League, which this actually almost corresponds with each other, I have it being Bob Melvin of the Oakland Athletics. I have the Athletics going to the World Series and losing their 6 games, but Bob Melvin still would be the best coach in the American League. Now, if you've been following my predictions, which if you're watching this video you have, this is going to be a really, really, really surprising pick for you. I think Dave Martinez of the Washington Nationals. And the reason I'm doing that is how good I saw him this is the Coach of the Year. Saw him coach last year throughout the postseason, took a wild card team and won the World Series with them. I don't even have them making the playoffs. I have them 3rd in their division, but that's just because of how the players are going to play. I say that Dave Martinez wins the National League Manager of the Year. Now, the biggest award, MVP. American League, I don't even have this guy's team winning his division. It's Alex Bregman. I feel like that best third baseman in the league, over Devers, he wasn't last year, but I feel like next year he's going to be the best third baseman in the league, over Arenado and Devers and any other third baseman that you can think of. Bregman's going to be better. I feel like he's going to hit around 35 home runs. He's going to hit 310, 315 range, so that should be enough to win him the American League MVP. Now, in the National League, this guy's going to have one heck of a year if my predictions somehow go all correctly. The NL MVP, as you can guess by what I just said, is Ronald Acuna Jr. I like Ronald Acuna Jr. so much, and I just feel like he's such a good player that he can win the World Series MVP, and season MVP. Mookie Betts couldn't even do that when the Red Sox won the 2018 World Series, so I'm showing that Ronald Acuna can do something really amazing. Ronald Acuna Jr. is gonna hit 295, 300 range, not as good as Bregman, but I can see Acuna hitting over 40 home runs next year, which would put him pretty good for the National League. So that's going to wrap up this edition of the Brothers Podcast. A little longer of a video. We're going to be doing, or at least I am, we'll be doing more predictions as the season progresses. We're going to do one once spring training starts. After spring training, we see prospects and how they work out. All-Star break, and then we'll do one for the actual postseason brackets at the end of the 2020 upcoming season. So thank you for listening to this podcast, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.